If your energy is flat, your hair and skin feel off, and your thyroid labs never quite make sense, it might not be your willpower. It might be iodine. Today, we're asking a simple question with real-life answers. Does everyday fluoride exposure make iodine deficiency more likely? And what should you actually do about it? Let's start with what iodine actually does. Your thyroid uses iodine to build thyroid hormones, T4 and T3, which set the pace for your metabolism, temperature, energy, brain function, and even how your heart beats. During pregnancy, iodine is crucial for a baby's brain and nervous system. Your body does not make iodine, so you have to get enough from food or a sensible supplement when advised. The thyroid is like a sponge for iodine in your blood. When there's enough iodine around, it quietly does its job. When there isn't, the gland has to work harder, T4 and T3 can drift down, TSH goes up to push the system, and symptoms start to creep in. How do we define and measure iodine deficiency in real life? For individuals, doctors often look at thyroid function tests first because that is what affects how you feel. TSH is a pituitary signal that rises when the thyroid needs a nudge. Free T4 and free T3 are the active hormones circulating in your blood. You can be low in iodine without an obvious change in these numbers at first, but persistent low intake can push the system off balance. For populations, researchers often use urinary iodine concentration because most iodine you eat is excreted in urine. Symptoms of low iodine can be subtle at the start. Think fatigue, feeling cold, dry skin, thinning hair, brain fog, and in more pronounced deficiency, an enlarged thyroid or neck fullness. Too little iodine is a problem, but too much can also backfire and irritate the thyroid, especially if you have autoimmune thyroid disease. The sweet spot matters. So, where does fluoride show up in everyday life? The common sources are community water in many regions, fluoride toothpaste, and some mouth rinses, certain teas like strong black or brick tea, and some green teas, and processed foods made with fluoridated water. Your total exposure depends a lot on your habits. If you drink several large mugs of very strong tea every day, or you swallow toothpaste instead of spitting, that changes your personal dose. If your local water has fluoride and you drink mostly water at home, that's exposure too. If you buy most of your food from restaurants or factories, you might get less iodine than you think, because many commercial products use non-iodized salt, which is a big detail almost no one talks about. Now let's unpack the fluoride iodine thyroid discussion clearly. People often claim that because fluoride and iodine are both halogens, fluoride competes with iodine in the body and harms thyroid function. The proposed mechanisms include competition at transporters or effects on enzymes involved in thyroid hormone production. What does the human evidence say? There are some studies suggesting that in areas with higher fluoride and low iodine intake, thyroid function can be affected. There are also studies where typical fluoride levels in community water are not associated with clear thyroid harm in people who have adequate iodine. Dose and context matter. If you already get enough iodine from iodized salt and food, typical fluoride exposure for most people is less likely to be the key driver of thyroid problems. If you rarely or never use iodized salt, avoid seafood and dairy, and drink very strong tea every day, the balance could tilt. The takeaway is not fluoride automatically wrecks your thyroid. The takeaway is your overall iodine status is the main lever, and individual habits change the math. For full context, there are other things that can interfere with iodine use or thyroid function. Perchlorate and thiocyanate are environmental competitors for the thyroid's iodine transporter. Thiocyanate can be higher in smokers. Very high calcium or iron at the same time as thyroid medication can block absorption of the medication itself, which people sometimes mistake for an iodine problem. Certain foods labeled as goitrogens, like raw cruciferous vegetables, can theoretically reduce iodine use when iodine intake is already low. But for most people who get normal amounts of iodine and cook their vegetables, this is not a major issue. Context matters more than headlines. What should you actually do to improve iodine status without overdoing it? Start with daily targets. Most adults need around 150 micrograms per day. Pregnancy needs roughly 220 micrograms. Breastfeeding needs around 290 micrograms. Food first usually works well. Iodized salt is the easiest lever. Depending on the brand and country, about half a teaspoon of iodized salt per day can cover the adult requirement for many people. The exact number varies, but it gives you a reference point. Many restaurants and packaged foods use non-iodized salt, so even if your overall salt intake is high, your iodine intake can still be low. Add iodine-rich foods like seafood, dairy if tolerated, and eggs. Seaweed can be very iodine-rich, so choose modest, consistent servings like nori a couple times a week rather than large amounts of kelp, which can overshoot. The goal is steady, not extreme. Safety and nuance are key. If you are pregnant or breastfeeding on thyroid medication, have known thyroid disease like Hashimoto's or Graves', have nodules, kidney disease, or you take lithium or amiodarone, you should not self-prescribe high-dose iodine. Work with your clinician. A small, steady intake from iodized salt and food is very different from taking high-dose iodine drops. More is not always better for the thyroid. Here's a simple decision path you can follow. If your energy is low, your neck feels full, your hair is shedding more than usual, or you feel unusually cold, start by checking your diet. Are you using iodized salt at home or not? Are you eating seafood once or twice a week, any dairy or eggs, or modest seaweed? If not, fix the food first for a few weeks. If symptoms persist or you have risk factors, talk to a healthcare professional about labs like TSH, free T4, and possibly free T3. Make changes, reassess, and only then consider a targeted iodine supplement if your clinician recommends it. That process is safer and much more likely to help than jumping to extremes. Tea and beverages deserve a short note. Heavy drinkers of very strong black or brick tea can get a higher fluoride load. You do not need to quit tea entirely. Balance it with adequate iodized salt and iodine-rich foods. If you have thyroid disease and drink a lot of strong tea, this is a meaningful habit to discuss with your clinician. For everyone else, enjoy your tea and build a solid iodine foundation. Give yourself 2 to 4 weeks and track a few basics. Note energy, temperature sensitivity, hair and skin changes, and resting heart rate. If you already monitor thyroid labs, do that on a clinician-guided timeline rather than every week. Most changes in thyroid systems take weeks to show up, and that's it. I have also made a video on how to take care of your overall health in 2026, especially if you are older. Watch this video next.